Before we begin, I would ask that everyone with their cell phones please take this opportunity to make sure they're silenced. We're going to begin with a piece by Bach, played by Deb Barsodi. This was a piece that was very special to Vicky when Deb would play. Thank you, Deb, for that beautiful musical offering. I would like to welcome and thank you all for joining us today to celebrate the life of Vicky George. First, I would like to introduce Bob, Vicky's brother.
Hello everybody.
Hello.
Firstly, apologise for this strange accent of mine. I just hope you can all understand what I'm saying. Can you understand Hayley? So on behalf of Hayley, Abra and all the family, a huge thank you for all you coming along to save this special day. And I know you all meant a lot to Vicky. I know she's up there somewhere looking down with that wonderful smile. And I guess she's also looking down, checking up on me, making sure I do this properly. She always liked things doing properly. So, coming on to the star of the show, Vicky. And wow, I certainly didn't have an ordinary little sister. We came from very humble beginnings, and life was hard. But my mum did a great job of bringing us up. You know, she installed great models, to respect other people, and most of all to strive harder. And whatever little job we had, we were encouraged to do it properly. And I can still hear my mum's mantra now: if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. And again, Vicky certainly did that. Vicky was one of those people in life that have that something extra. She stood out from the crowd. And it's very hard to describe what that actually is. I always think it just is. Be it charisma, an instant respect and trust, and a belief that what she said was true. You believed her. As a young girl, she had this huge passion and energy for life, and we all knew, you know, early on that she would go on to do something really special. So Vicky went through school and college, and then she loved to travel. So she worked her way around Europe, and at the age of 21, she came to America. She loved America, she was following the American dream, and she made America her adopted home. And you guys are the lucky ones because, you know, twist of fate here and there, she ended up at SoCal. It was our sad loss, but it was your great gain. I remember a couple of years ago I was visiting and I was down the coffee shop and I got talking to the guy and I mentioned that I was visiting Vicky. And his face lit up. He said, "Oh, I know Vicky, the lady who lives in the big house up the hill." And so I smiled at that. I thought, well, Vicky's come a long way from those humble beginnings. And I was walking back up again and I thought, well, that guy didn't really know Vicky. He didn't get Vicky. I mean, she lives in this beautiful house. But really, Vicky was never materialistic. You know, things didn't matter to Vicky. What mattered to Vicky was people. You know, she was hugely generous and she always put other people first. The lasting legacy, of course, is balance. And it was born and evolved through Hayley and Abra, and all those years of struggle and frustration, you know, through the lack of really good care, and, you know, for Hayley and Abra, and all kids with special education. So she thought, I can do this in a better way. And so the journey began. And with her drive and passion, it has become what it is today. A role model of how a business should be, and a template for others to hopefully follow. And one of the real keys to balance is the people that work in balance. And Vicky instinctively realised this early on, and she found these people. Some of them found her. And she nurtured these people. And I've had the privilege of meeting some of these people in the last couple of weeks and talking to the people and listening to their stories. And there is this constant recurring theme. She took a chance on me. She believed in me. She changed my life. She has made me a better person. A true inspiration. It goes on and on. So she has built this phenomenally successful business. And at the same time, she was a devoted mom to Hayley and Abra, looking after all your special needs, Hayley. And I put this one in capital letters here, she was also fighting this huge battle with cancer. So how did she manage this? I really don't know. And then there's another aunt. Probably too many aunts for Vicky. And she did all this without people really knowing how ill she was. You know, and for the people who did know, to what extent it was, how serious it was. Now, she hid her illness. She never complained. She always looked great. She still had that wonderful smile. And she continued to put other people first. Even on that last morning when she was rushed into hospital, she'd conducted an interview. So right to the end, she was striving harder to keep balance, pushing forward. Truly, truly an amazing, gracious lady. And I feel hugely privileged to be part of her life. So in conclusion, I have a favourite saying. A person never really dies until the last person who loved them dies. I know that we all hold Vicky deep in our hearts, and through balance, she will live forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Now, I would like to introduce Jennifer Denning to read a message from Vicky's sister, Izzy.
Jen, stop.
Hi everyone. So Izzy wasn't able to be here, so she decided to send a letter that she wanted us to share. Vicky was my little sister. Vicky, never Victoria, grew up loving ponies, horses, and us, her family. Most of you knew Liz, our mom, who joined Vicky to be grandma to Hayley and Abra, born in 1992. Sadly, we lost Mom to old age and motor neuron disease last December, but she did live to the grand age of 90 years. Bob, our brother, with you today, was always there for Vicky when she needed him. He was quite simply her rock. They shared such a special bond. I love that they had that. Sue, Bob's wife, was kind enough to share him and was at Vicky's bedside as both nurse and comforter at the end, alongside Bob with Rosalind, Ashley, and Juliana. For Linton, my husband, Vicky was his very own and very special Wonder Woman. Through the love for her twin girls and with wisdom and guidance from friends, Balance was conceived and eventually founded. Everyone involved with Balance then became her new, much larger extended family, and they gave her a fulfillment she had never previously known, except as mom to Hayley and Abra. So my description of Vicky as my little sister is completely wrong. Her massive achievements with Balance, her long-standing and loving friendships with some very special people, and her sheer courage in the face of her long battle against cancer proved it. She was the bigger sister by far, and she made me so proud and so full of love for her. I love you more.
Thank you, Jen. Now, I would like to invite Rosalind Sassoon and Bob up for the presentation of the necklace.
doubt everyone here remembers Vicky wearing her floating heart necklace. The heart is the universal symbol for love, unity, compassion, and affection. The fact that it is an open heart represents to me Vicky's open-heartedness to one and all. I think this perfectly describes Vicky, and it makes sense to me that she wore this necklace all the time. Thank you, Bob, for taking this little piece of Vicky back to Izzy as a perfect keepsake for her to hold dear.
Just to let you know, Izzy's so grateful. You know, it's a precious piece of jewellery, and she has her. When her time comes, she'll bequeath it back to Balance. Thank you.
Now, I invite Katie Merchant to come up and read the poem, My Voice.
I do not want to travel, not this minute, this week, this year, through a tunnel to dissolve into infinite white radiance. I'd rather live in my quaint village by the sea, with brilliantly colored bougainvillea, meander down the sidewalk, rejoicing in the ocean's scent and feeling the gentle breeze. I don't want to rejoin my ancestors, not just yet, in that phantasmagorical mandala of light. I'd rather visit Carmel for the afternoon and walk through Garland Ranch with Koa romping by my side. Sit in the garden of our Dubinbis home, enveloped in the warmth of my cashmere stole. Plan excursions for my 2 girls with traveling companions, our loving friends. Slowly sip a chilled orange Gina while gently embraced the day's end. I wanted to understand the meaning of life, read the poems of Rumi, and capture my inner visions through soft pastel drawings while bathing in the afternoon light. Take endless hikes through Fall Creek Park, reaching the highest marks to view the majestic scenes, terrestrial mountains, valleys, and streams. Gaze upon the vast skies with hawks soaring high, then surprisingly finding at my feet an iridescent feather glistening in the diffuse light. I always look forward to my English holiday treats, Canberry chocolates, even a biscuit to enjoy with a cup of afternoon tea. But such was not to be. So listen, loves, nothing is hidden from those who have passed. They slip inside your mind and gaze out through your eyes to look at your bit of the world. They rifle through your thoughts, amused, holding their own invisible point of view. Sometimes you sense their presence, and if you pay close attention, they might leave something drop, leaving just a snippet, cutting through our aching hearts.
Thank you so much, Katie. That was beautiful. And now, Rosalind will join us to... Oh, I apologize. And now, Deb will join us.
I don't know how many people remember this picture of Vicky in this beautiful dark dress with flowers on it. And Rosalind reminded me, she says, you know, remember where that picture was taken? It was at your wedding in her backyard here. when she and I, in the beginning of our becoming friends, and when I see that picture, I just think of her, like, it reminds me of this piece of music that Saint-Saëns wrote called The Swan.
Thank you, Deb. And now to read to us a poem that was very special to Vicky, called Rumi.
Vicky described this poem this way. This poem epitomizes for me the way the world works. I love it. Starlight and shadows. How does a part of the world leave the world? How does wetness leave water? Don't try to put out fire by throwing on more fire. Don't wash a wound with blood. No matter how fast you run, your shadow keeps up. Sometimes it's in front. Only full overhead sun diminishes your shadow, but that shadow has been serving you. What hurts you blesses you. Darkness is your candle. Your boundaries are your quest. I could explain this, but it will break the glass cover on your heart, and there's no fixing that. You must have shadow and light source both. Listen and lay your head under the tree of awe. When from that tree feathers and wings sprout on you, be quieter than a dove. Don't even open your mouth for even a coo.
Thank you, Rosalind. In a moment, We'll be opening the mic to those of you who want to speak about your experiences with Vicky. But before we do that, Ashley Basneezy will be sharing with us a poem from a dear friend, Shelley.
One wave at a time, a ship plows through a million waves. Before its voyage is done, a soul meets with a host of woes before the race is won. But like the sturdy ship, it moves with confidence sublime, for it only has to breast but one wave at a time. Take fresh courage in one another till it's time.
And now we will open the mic to those of you who would like to speak.
I don't want to hog this mic all the time, and I have spoken once, but I feel as though I have to sort of say thank you to no end of people. And there's too many people to thank individually. But I'd like to ask Ashley, Rosalind, Sue, and Juliana to join me up here, please. So we have four amazing ladies here, and to start with Ashley, you've been so strong. This last 12 months must have been really difficult, and all those trips over the hill to Stanford, and you really were Vicky's right hand, and thank you for that. Sue, for coming out here with me, great support. Juliana, well, Juliana came back to care for Vicky. She promised to care for Vicky, and she heard the news, and she was in Australia, jumped on the plane and came back. And Ros, sorry. Vicky's dearest friend, longest friend and soulmate. You three, the nursing care, the comfort, especially the last couple of days, was amazing, really. Now, I've got no gifts for you, but we sort of survived over those last couple of weeks with hugs. So I just want to hug each, and then we'll just carry on. Thank you.
Okay, Haley, come on up. Haley's going to read a letter that she wrote to her mom. You want me to read it? Okay, you try, and then if you can't do it, I'll help you. It's called Vicky's Speech, Saturday. I don't know if I can read it.
Yes. No.
I will miss you, Vicky George.
Try.
I'm sorry. I will stand here with you.
I will miss you, Vicky George. You were the best mom. I loved you. I loved Saturdays with you because it was fun shopping and having lunch out. You always cared about me. That's about it. Now, if anyone else.
Rochambeau. Brian's turn. Brian.
Vicky, I thought of you today, but that is nothing new. I thought about you yesterday and days before that too. I think of you in silence. I often speak your name. All I have are memories,
and your picture in a frame. Your memory is a keepsake from which I'll never part. Your spirit is free, but I keep you in my heart.
Brian's turn. Poem.
I met Vicky in 1996 when our girls were in Bonnie Doon preschool together.
Wow.
Of the 12 children, 3 of the mothers were English. What are the odds of that? Vicky liked the way my daughter Lucy and Haley interacted, and so she set up swimming lessons. Do you remember that, Haley? And slowly we became friends. After her first round of treatment, Vicky became very depressed. I was not really aware of this until one day she and Bob showed up at my door and asked for my advice about how she could be helped. I would say that was the turning point in our friendship, as I saw this smart, funny, hard-working woman struggle so much. I wanted to support her and see her through her hour of darkness, and we became close. One night around that time, we went out with my sister, who was visiting from England, and Vicky asked which one of us was the older. Well, my sister, who is 5 years older than me, has never forgotten that, thanks, Vicky. And so I get face cream every Christmas with a gleeful smile. It works, Jen. Serious. Vicky was so strong. I found her remarkable. She held up her business, her girls, her health, and herself as her marriage fell apart. I remember sitting in Aptos at lunch and Vicky telling me that she really didn't have much interest in her business Fruin anymore, and she'd really like to do something in the community that would help her girls and help all the special needs kids in Santa Cruz. I encouraged her, as I'm sure many of you did. She had a vision and she knew how to run a business, but she'd never run a nonprofit and she knew nothing about education. She worried about the fact that she did not have a degree or a graduate degree, but she plowed on. With her determination and hard work and vision, she created balance and then grew the company, often following Haley and Abra's needs and the lack of resources in the community. As we all know, it has become a rich and diverse nonprofit, helping so many in this town. Many of you know I adopted a 7-year-old Chinese boy, and Vicky was so supportive during the very rough transition of bringing him home, getting him settled. She encouraged me, checked in on me, and gave me contacts and resources. She reminded me to take care of myself. She suggested we go on an indulgence weekend to Napa, and we had a wonderful time. However, she confided in me then that she thought her cancer was back, and a month later it was confirmed. That led to my year of supporting Vicky with her treatments at Stanford. One day, early on, stands out particularly in my mind. We'd been waiting quite a long time for Dr. Stockdale to come in. Slowly, we became aware that he was in the other room with another patient who was becoming more and more upset, and loud enough for us to hear. She'd had enough. She was tired, and the chemo was making her sick. She didn't want to do it anymore. Stockdale patiently listened to her and tried to talk her into continuing, but she just didn't want to. He told her, "You know what this means, right? Are you ready for that?" And then she started sobbing and said she didn't want to die, but she couldn't live this way. It was heart-wrenching, and it affected us both very deeply. I cannot help but think that Vicky decided then that it would be different for her, and it strengthened her will. And it was so different for her. She sailed through the chemo. She was walking avidly for miles every week, and she came in, and Stockdale was so pleased and so proud of her. He said more than once that he could not believe how strong she was, and stoic, so very stoic. Vicky's will, through all of the challenges her health presented, was incredible. Vicky really began to open up emotionally during that time. She wrote me an email and spoke of the experience of feeling her emotions It is wonderful to feel these feelings, happy or sad. It makes me feel alive. Where have I been for 20 years? She definitely ran the marathon and showed us how to be alive, value every moment, and carry on with life gracefully through it all. And she continued that right up until the end. Vicky did the same with her death. I feel so reassured having been with her towards the end. She was so gracious about the way she said her goodbyes. After that, she was at peace and ready to go. Vicky told me once that she believed that sibling relationships are the most important one of one's life. As she said in the hospital when she heard the list of people that would be visiting her that day, "I want Bob first." She loved and admired you so much, Bob. No holds barred. And she waited until you were together alone and she took her last breath, which I see as the ultimate testament to your relationship. A long time ago, she said to me, "Jen, you taught me something really important. You said that children need to have their pockets filled with love from their mothers so that they can go out in the world alone and be strengthened in that love." Vicky filled Haley and Abra's pockets, and then she filled ours. And so many young and wonderful people that needed their pockets filled. We're all strengthened by Vicky's love. We now need to go out into the world and do our meaningful work.
I think not too long after you met Vicky, I met her like a year later, and I remember going to visit you in Bonnie Doon, and I remember when she was depressed, and she actually told me something. I was working with the girls and doing music, and I used to bring a friend of mine with me who had Tibetan bowls and glass bowls, and we would do music therapy. And I remember this one time she was laying on the floor in the house in Bonnie Doon in the study. It was like this big wooden room. I don't know if you remember that room. And she was laying on the carpet on the floor, and we had bowls all over her and doing this crazy seance kind of stuff with candles. And we just did what we did. And then later on, years later, when she was doing better, came here and bought this house and did all this stuff. She said, "You know, that time when you came and you did all that stuff with the bowls," she said, it worked. She was like, I could feel the depression lifting out of my body. And it worked. She said, "I just wanted you to know that it worked, so because I never said anything." I was like, "Thank you for telling me," because I never know like what helps people or doesn't help people, you know. When I'm doing stuff, I'm just like, I'll just try, do the best I can to like, you know, impart something that might be helpful, and you just never know like what helps and what doesn't help. But I just remember her being so generous. I don't know if you remember the boyfriend sweater. Do you remember the boyfriend sweater?
Well, I remember the sweater she gave you.
The green sweater. Yeah, she had this green sweater. And I was just like, always like, oh my God, that's the best sweater. I love that sweater. And she just takes it off and goes, "It's yours. That's yours. It's the boyfriend sweater. It's the best sweater. I love it." And she's like, "You're going to get a boyfriend. A really good one." She just gave me the sweater. I was like, who does that? You know? She was just so generous. It was always amazing to me. And I remember when she started Balance, because the girls, I was doing music and coming and staying with her every week, and I remember her saying they've stopped eating. They won't eat certain things. Like, I can't get the balanced diet going here. And so she just started this thing with senses and smells and tastes and all these really interesting little, any way she could figure out how to twist whatever was going on for them into a positive direction. And so all of a sudden we're doing juices and these smells and this, and then the next thing I know, she says, "You know, you started your nonprofit. It wouldn't be so hard, would it?" if I started a nonprofit. I should turn this into a nonprofit. This is good. Kids are doing good. Look at how many kids are doing really well with this, and the girls are eating, and the girls are doing And then she started doing things with the school district, and then she started this nonprofit. And I was just like, one word of warning: just please get your board right, because that's why we shut our nonprofit down. And so she was like focused on the board. And then I remember coming to the events and thinking like, wow, she really does. She got the board right. So, that's like the hardest thing in a nonprofit. And she just, I just loved the way she would just grasp everything that made sense and just go with it. That was just like, to me, like the essence of how wonderful her spirit was. And she would just spread this to everybody, including me, around. She just would take this idea or something and just go with it and affect all these people around her. And just so humbly, like she was, oh yeah, whatever. It's not a big deal. It's just. And it was just so, I looked at what she was doing going, oh my God, it's like so hard. And then just all the complications in life that come along and how you cope with them and just move forward. And I think if there's anything that she would want us all to keep in our hearts, is that thing, that je ne sais quoi that she had, that like not everybody has, is just to like see. It's like in baseball, see the ball, hit the ball. It's like you just see it and you get it and you just go with it and just, I don't know what, but just keep on going. And she just kept on going, like right all the way up until the last minute, and just with full force. And I can't, there aren't any words to say how much I love her, but just what she gave all of us. It's just gratitude. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to start by reading actually a letter from Vicky's dear friend, Catherine with fever, up in Marin, who could not be here today, was not feeling well, but she did have a couple of things that she wanted to say, in addition to the lovely letter that she wrote to Vicky a couple of weeks ago. I think it's still there in the cottage if you have a couple minutes to read it. It's a really beautiful letter. But this morning she wrote, she says, I am so sorry that a nasty head cold is keeping me from being with you all today. But if I was here with you, or if I was there with you today, I would have shared the following. While there are many things I will always love and appreciate about Vicky, my top three are, Catherine likes lists, so this comes up a lot. Number one, her incredible kindness and generosity. So many of us somehow tangle up in our giving in expectations and people-pleasing, keeping score, or freaking out after we suddenly fear that we've given too much. But Vicky gave of herself wholeheartedly and unconditionally in a way that I haven't come across very often in my life. She folded strangers into family and made even the most timid and broken among us feel welcome and seen. Her heart was enormous, with no strings or price tag attached. I think in addition to all those bumper stickers about what would Jesus blank, think in addition to what would Jesus, the Buddha, John Lennon, etc. do, we should print out a good stack of what would Vicky do and slap them all on our cars. Number two, her capacity to keep showing up in the face of, and sometimes extreme, adversity. Vicky seemed to be dealt more than her fair share of complicated cards in life, but she did not use that to opt out, play the victim, or give up. I can honestly say I do not recall Vicky ever whining or moping or having a pity party for herself in all the time I ever knew her. When life gave her lemons, not only did she make lemonade, she went out and shared it with everyone in the neighborhood. And number 3, her almost childlike appreciation for and delight in life. She had a stellar sense of humor and an infectious laugh, and the ability to find special sparkly sides to everyday things. One of my last visits in the garden that you are all sitting in now, I remember her telling me that Koa had this crazy game of running laps around out in the back, and did I want to see it? Sure enough, we went outside and Koa started doing donuts, and Vicky and I got a lilt of giggles that lasted about 10 minutes, all over a big goofy dog running around in circles. While it breaks my heart that Vicky is no longer able to stand in the garden giggling with me, I will always be profoundly grateful to have known her. In addition to the happy memories, I am left with a simple but powerful recipe for being on this planet. And yet one more list from Catherine. Number 1, give without a price tag. Number 2, don't whine. And 3, excuse me.
Bless you.
And 3, notice the special sparkly sides to everyday things as often as you possibly can. I love you all. So for myself, for my dear friend, I don't want to say that I'm going to miss her, because I honestly feel her. I can actually hear her voice, and I know a lot of you can hear too. She had the most beautiful voice, this lovely soprano, melodic, musical, kind of a lilting soprano. I'll be able to hear that the rest of my life. Wow. She gave us so many gifts, and they were simple, and yet so powerful, and I just cannot, I don't think I'll ever be able to grasp just how important they are to me. I want to tell you just briefly about I don't want to call it an incident, but we a couple years ago during the 2016 elections, I was kind of like a mad poster on Facebook and doing all things political and sending stuff out and so forth. And one day I came across this post, and I just kind of went, haha, and I posted it to this group. And about 2 minutes later, I got a phone call from her. And it was I thought it was kind of unusual for her to be calling me just at that time. I was, okay. And she was very upset with me. It would not have been the first time. But she said, Michael, that post that you just put there is awful. I hate it. It's terrible. And at that time, feeling very self-assured and of the justice of my cause, I tried to defend what I had posted there. To be honest with you, I still believe it. But my friend did not appreciate it at all. She told me to take it down, and I did. As I think about it now, and I really can't even tell you what was the total import of that post, because I know it was pretty mean-spirited. But it was those things that Vicky always challenged me and supported me to be a better person. I can hear her going, Michael. And I'll always be able to hear that too. Just that look. She would give me that look. I was on the phone with her, and I could feel that look coming over the phone, challenging me to be better, do better, be a better person. And I'll always do that. I'm always going to think about her in the many ways that she's going to continue to touch my life. I'll always remember that look. Just beautiful. And the example of her life. In all the years that we knew each other, I've never known a stronger person. And I don't expect that I ever will. I've never met a more capable person who, with really no experience in the field of nonprofits, built the organization that she leaves for us today and will continue to reach out and impact so many people long after she's gone. Consider, when we first met, at the time, she was climbing telephone poles. Picture this. Vicky in these kind of like mustard brown overalls, all black and greasy from climbing up the pole and fixing various things for the phone company. Her face all caked with dirt and grease, and her hair all kind of mud. And that smile. And that smile. Now the phone thing didn't, at least the phone climbing, the telephone climbing part didn't last all that long. Eventually she was really more in the managerial role and ran that business. But I don't know at that time if any of us knew what was in store for her, because her true greatness lay ahead of her. Even at that time, though, I knew that I was just so blessed and fortunate to have a friend like her. Just an incredible person. A couple of weeks ago, I came across a tribute to actually someone else, because I'm not terribly good with things like that. But what really struck me about that are the things that I know are the things that she wants us to continue on and to act in ways that we support each other. And the things that came out of that thing I read were to love generously, to care deeply, to speak kindly, and to forgive completely. Vicky embodied all those things without having to think about it. It's just who she was as a person. It's just so amazing. And I'll carry that with me the rest of my life. She was just so wonderful. The last thing I wanted to just kind of tell you about was, for many of the early years, she took me in, really. I had lost, the year that we met, I'd lost my mother, and without even really thinking about it at the time, I was realizing that I was going to spend the first Christmas without my mother. And she invited me over to her house in Culver City, where we were living at the time, with other telephone pole climbers like herself, and some of her friends from England and so forth. And that turned out to be the first of 12 consecutive Christmases we spent together, whether it was in LA or Dana Point or Cape Cod, and then eventually Bonnie Doon, and then here. And we kind of had our own traditions throughout that time. But one of them was on Christmas Eve, we would all watch A Wonderful Life. And, that, usually wraps up about 11 o'clock.
Oh,
Whoa.
Oh my gosh. There's a squirrel up there.
Bad squirrel. Anyway, we would watch A Wonderful Life, and then we would have, kind of champagne toasts until midnight perhaps. And then we would get up, we would go to sleep, and the next morning, there was this tuba, and I think maybe of you have seen this tuba before. It's just kind of gone with her from house to house to house. I first saw it when they were living up in Mill Valley back in the early 80s. But that tuba followed her throughout all the various houses, and it became our tradition that on Christmas morning, very early Christmas morning, dark 30 Christmas morning, whoever got up first would blow that horn. So, a minute here. You didn't see me bring this out, did you? I got you. So for my dear friend, one more time, I'm going to have a Christmas blast here. But first, I'm going to play you a 37-minute instrumental jazz fusion. I'm still writing it, but I'm just kidding.
I played it.
Before I do that, I have to tell you that my dear friend Bob Trigg, many years, he was right there. He would blow the horn. He would blow that horn
Not
first.
me.
There's a good picture of you and me with this thing.
Truly, thank you, everyone who was able to share. And those of you who didn't feel compelled at the moment, I encourage you all to share later on as this continues. Again, thank you all for those who did share, and hopefully those of you will also later on. We now ask that you all stand, take hands, and we'll take a moment of silence to reflect on the exceptional life of Vicky George. Thank you. In a moment, we are going to gather in the cottage for food and refreshment. First, I wanted to share with you a few special touches from friends and family today in the honor of Vicky. We will proceed to the cottage to a song by Joe Cocker titled Up Where We Belong, which was a special request from Izzy. You will notice as you proceed the color yellow throughout, which represents Vicky's favorite color. You will also notice the yellow bows, which is an English tradition of remembering those who have gone before us. You will also find Vicky's favorite drink, Orangina, in the cottage as well. The playlist you will hear is songs that were especially significant to Vicky and those of her friends. Thank you all.